The CBI has filed a special leave petition against the Delhi High Court order in the Unnao rape case in the Supreme Court. The Delhi High Court suspended the sentence and granted bail to accused Kuldeep Sengar, and now the Supreme Court will see the CBI appeal against the Delhi High Court. The CBI now moving that special leave petition against the Delhi High Court order, which suspended the sentence of Kuldeep Singh Sengar, who was convicted in a trial court for rape of the Unnao survivor. Now this battle heads to the top court of the country, where a special leave petition has now been filed by the Central Bureau of Investigation. The SLP has been filed before the top court of the country, opposing the Delhi High Court order in the Unnao rape case, which granted the suspension of the sentence for Kuldeep Singh Sengar. To get more details, I'm joined by my colleague Arunima on the broadcast. Arunima, so a huge CNN News 18 impact. CNN has been tracking all the developments in this case, posing the big questions towards the CBI, and now movement towards some level of resolution as the CBI now heads to the top court of the country to oppose the Delhi High Court order.
Yes, so two important points on which CBI has appealed to the Supreme Court. One is interpretation of the phrase public servant. High Court had used Section 21 of the Indian Penal Code to interpret what public servant means, and then gone on to say that an MLA does not come in the ambit of this definition, and therefore the stringent section of POCSO, Section 5, cannot be dealt with. That was used by the High Court to give relief to Kuldeep Singh Sengar. Now, CBI has gone to the Supreme Court with this SLP, arguing that, you should take a victim-centric approach and not go into mere technicalities, because this is a case of gang rape that we are talking about. This is a case we are talking about somebody who's in a position of power, and therefore the victim-centric approach must be taken, something that society at large has been crying out loud for as well, saying that, Sengar cannot be given a suspension of sentence merely relying on an interpretation of the term public servant. The second thing that the CBI has argued in the special leave petition before the Supreme Court is that just long incarceration for Sengar cannot be a ground for giving him any kind of relief, because the crime that he stands accused of, gang rape, intimidation, and further crimes as well, for which he's already in custody, intimidating the family, custodial death of the father of the survivor, all of this together, CBI is arguing before the Supreme Court, should be kept in mind before you take a final decision on whether to give him any relief or not.
Right, and Arunima, please stay with us. Let's decode those details for our viewers. This is CNN News 18 accessing the appeal, the details of the appeal filed by the CBI challenging the Delhi High Court order. As my colleague Arunima was pointing out, the Delhi High Court order, remember, suspended Kuldeep Singh Sengar's sentence. The plea asserts that the High Court failed to adopt a victim-centric, purposive interpretation of POCSO section. And long incarceration cannot alone justify the suspension of the sentence, is what the CBI has said in its plea, which will now be heard before the top court of the country. Arunima, these key crucial aspects of the plea of the CBI. This long incarceration cannot alone justify suspension of sentence, and the failure of the High Court to adopt a victim-centric and purposive interpretation of the POCSO section. These are questions that have been raised by us time and time again as we decoded the different times Kuldeep Singh Sengar was granted bail by the Delhi High Court. He was given a long rope by the judiciary, and those questions is something the CBI has been forced to answer, and now we can see this case move ahead towards the top court.
Yes, so the Central Bureau of Investigation has been at pains to argue that we are not at fault here. We have tried to argue even when suspension of sentence was being argued in Delhi High Court, along with the Victims' Council, CBI too firmly opposed any relief to Kuldeep Singh Sengar. We relied on previous judgments and we vehemently opposed, but yet the court, took the interpretation of public servant. Like I mentioned, Section 5 of the IPC is what the court relied on. CBI says that it was not in our hands, even though we tried to argue to the best of our ability. Now we are going to the Supreme Court once again to seek clarity, because even in the High Court, we highlighted previous judgments given by the Apex Court about interpretation of public servant. High Court has not appreciated those. So now we are hoping that the Supreme Court is going to appreciate that argument. Two things that the CBI is really hoping for. One, the public sentiment. You're seeing the hue and cry around this case. Of course, judges don't look at newspaper headlines, and they look at the law of the land. But in terms of the law of the land as well, CBI is hoping that interpretation of public servant as was relied on by the trial court, where the definition of public servant was picked up from Prevention of Corruption Act. That kind of an interpretation, victim-centric approach, is what the Supreme Court will rely on as well.
Right. Thank you, Arunima, for getting